Hello there, welcome to another tutorial. Today's tutorial we are going to be talking about some um, unique topics in HTML. So the first thing we want to talk about is HTML entities. In HTML we have some characters that are reserved. For example, now let's say you are maybe writing. Okay, a very good example is the greater than sign and the less than sign. So because HTML tags include a less than sign and a greater than sign, such kind of characters will be very difficult to mix them up in your text. For example, if I want to say if I want to write a text now, let's say, okay, I'm going to create a new web page. This web page is pretty long. New file. I'm going to save it as let's just save it as okay, let me say services dot html. I'm going to bring my HTML like this. I'm going to give a title, just services. Okay, good. Now talking about HTML and entities, let's say I want to make a paragraph. Say 2 greater than 3, for example, and maybe I have another paragraph again. Let's say 3 less than 4, for example. So some situation this is going to cause some problem in some situation, because especially when you have to use JavaScript or things like that. So in this situation, what HTML entities does is that all characters that exist in the character set, UTF-8 character set, have a reserved entity name that can be used in producing that character, or the entity number. So every character has an entity name as well as an entity character. For example, if you want to display let's say the less than using the entity name is LT. So if you know the entity name of a character and you want to display that character, you simply write ampersand, which is this one. Then you can write the entity name. Then as well, if you know the entity, like greater than is GT, so you write ampersand GT. Okay. So when you are writing some codes and maybe you are having problem with such kind of characters, then what you need to do is to find the entity name or entity number of those characters, and then you can replace them. Okay, so if you know the entity number, then you are going to use ampersand followed by a hash. For example, the entity number for less than sign is 60. So if I want to use the entity number, in this case I'll put the ampersand followed by a hash, then I'll put 60. But since I'm using a number, then I must end it with what? A semicolon. The same thing goes for greater than. The entity number for greater than is 160. So then I'll follow it by what? A semicolon. So if you are using the entity name, then you are going to bring the ampersand followed by the entity name. No semicolon. You could put your semicolon. Yes, you should put a semicolon all the time. But if you are using the entity number, then you are going to bring the ampersand symbol, then the hash symbol, then you now put the entity number, then you now still close it, end it up with what? Your semicolon. So semicolon is very important, especially where you are combining two entities or one or more HTML entities. So if you look at this code, you are going to see that this is equivalent to what? To the greater than sign and the less than sign. Okay. Greater than sign is sorry, it's 62. Okay, 62. Then we have the so HTML entities. There are so plenty, so many of them. We have entities for currencies, entities for special characters, entities for symbols, and so there are so many of them. So we're just going to take some few examples. Let's say entity for non-breaking space is 160. So for example, if you see what non-breaking space means is even when you have a line of text, a non-breaking space, you can create space between text, but that line of text will not break even if maybe the device is resized, right? For example, I can say hello, then I can bring a non-breaking space. For example, I can bring ampersand hash. Let's say if I'm using the entity number for non-breaking space, this, then I'll say hello world. Now if I do this and I save and I refresh, so there's going to be a space between hello and world. However, this space is a non-breaking space. What that means is that if this container reduces to an extent that maybe you would expect that the world should come down to the next line, it's not going to do that because it's more or less like a one word, because the space here is a non-breaking space. Okay, other examples of entities are maybe things like double quote, for example. Okay, let's just make a list of okay, good, let's make a list of HTML entities, just from few lists. Let's say we have a H2 here. There's a HTML entities. Okay, this is going to be close of H2. Okay, we could have a table. Let's see, table. We could have t head, and then we could have a th. So could have description, right? Then we could have the entity name, then we could have entity number, and then we could have example. Okay, so that's our the heading of our table. Then we have a T body, then we have a TR. So let's start with the first entity. Each row in our table has four TDs. So we have the first TD. Let's say we want to bring okay, let's start with the greater than sign. Greater than. The entity name for greater than is going to be ampersand GT. Yes. Then the entity number for greater than is going to be, if you are using the entity number, you say the ampersand hash, then you put 62 and followed by this. Then to see an example of that, okay, to see an example, you just okay, we could use the code. We say or we use the ampersand GT. Okay, then followed by this, save, and then we could refresh. Oh, okay, so if you look at these, but they are all executing the HTML entity for us, right? So but to show the code, we could just use the HTML entity for ampersand. So this example of what I was trying to say. Now to show the code, we could use the AMP ampersand, starting for the entity name for ampersand, AMP starting for the entity name for ampersand. And so this is what we want. We want the this one to show the code, and give us the real character here. Okay, so let's do same for less than sign. Can we just duplicate this? Ctrl Shift D. Oh, okay. I'll just copy that, and then I'll paste it here. So this is less than. This is LT. This is what 60, and this is what LT. Okay. Okay, let's look at some important signs such as the copyright. So we have this one, copyright. Then we have name is what is copy. Code is the code is 169, and then here we could just use the copy like this. Let's look at another example. Okay, so for example, let's look at another example before we call it an end, and I'm going to give an assignment. So we have the registered trademark. Okay, registered trademark is reg, and the code is 174. And so to see an example of that, we just use right here, and then we save it. So okay, so this is an example of this, what HTML entities are all about. entities, HTML entities, they are very powerful, especially when you need to, create, maybe translate a web page into another language, and so many other things, or you need to even hide some stuffs like that. Okay, so I'm gonna give an assignment. Your assignment is going to be, I need you to give me a list of HTML entities for currencies such as dollar, euro, all major currencies of the world, and including naira. Okay, see you in the next class.